All right, welcome everybody. Would like to welcome you to the session about hybrid meetings, how to make them work. I want to talk through a few things tonight. Some of this may be basic to some of you, but I do want to make sure that everybody gets a foundational understanding of what we're talking about. So that way you guys have the best information so you can equip your club to perform hybrid meetings if that's what you decide to do. I'm the president-elect for the Bellevue East Side Rotary Club. We call ourselves the happiest hour because we meet at Duke's right around happy hour. So if you have to excuse yourself to go get a beverage, completely allowed. And I will do myself the favor of staying hydrated as well. So I want to welcome everybody. As I was sharing a little bit earlier, all through my PETS training this year, in every single session, people were asking about how do we do hybrid meetings? And I want to walk you through a little bit of information around the equipment. But before we get there, let's talk about experience. As I'm talking to you guys right now, you're hearing me through the microphones that are on my laptop. And I think we're all very familiar with what Zoom experience is like. If I'm rocking the table and if people don't face the computer, then you can't really hear them. And, so all of these pieces make it really hard to hear. And when it comes to a quality experience, audio is the foundational piece. Okay, low grade video or stuttery video is actually a little more excusable in the human brain than bad audio. If you can't hear, nobody wants to listen. So probably the lowest common denominator or the worst audio experience is what we're talking about right here, just talking on a laptop. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to switch to a webcam. And we're going to try that out. So hold on just a second.
What's going to happen with your
Now this is talking on a webcam. I have a webcam set up on a tripod that I just turned around so you guys could see me. Now once again, this might be a slight step up, but you can hear a fair amount of the background audio. You can hear the noise of some of the restaurant. For folks who are just tuning in, I'm at Duke's Restaurant here in Bellevue. They have a great, fabulous back room that they're wonderful with our Rotary Club that they allow us to go ahead and use this back room. But I'm just talking to a webcam that's sitting on a tripod and angled up to see me. And the audio is slightly different. You'll hear some fire engines or cop cars driving by here. But again, this captures the entire room audio. So that's why one of the things that we want to do and we really want to pay attention to is that we'll go into an experience where let's make sure this is on. All right, so now I'm on the headset microphone that I have right here. Now this headset microphone is a wireless microphone, and I'm going to be using this for most of the session today, just because I'm going to be moving around. I'm going to be moving you around. So anybody who gets motion sickness, you might want to put a little patch behind your ear. Kidding. But what we'll do is I'm going to give you a tour of the room so you guys can experience it a little bit. So I don't know about your meeting, but our meeting starts with a little bit of socialization. So typically when we go to socialize, what we do is we're going to set up the camera in the room and we're going to turn on some room audio so we can talk to people in the room. Now here's the great thing. My good friend and Sergeant-at-Arms, Mr. Glenn Wright, has actually come to join me today. So I'm going to move this camera, and I'm actually going to move, here's what I'll do. I will move this as well. So Glenn, I turned up that microphone that's there in the room.
Okay.
There you go, so we can see up there.
Can you guys hear me?
You probably won't be able to see them very well, but yeah, you should be live here. Yeah, just talk into it.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. There you go. So when we start our meetings, I have a couple of these microphones right here, which are called boundary microphones. They are designed to be an ambient room mic. So they pick up audio that's all over the top of them. And what that allows is we actually usually set up 2 of them across a couple of different tables. And that way, anybody in the room who would like to come and speak to the people who are on the Zoom meeting, they know that they can come talk at this table and it's picked up. And we'll talk about how we hear you in a few minutes. But let's talk about inputs first. So as a lot of you have probably already experimented, you figured out that there's a fair amount of choices that you can make in Zoom where you can pick which microphone you use. All right. Let's see. Oh, it looks like there's some audio interference. If you guys can hear me okay, just somebody type in the chat for me and let me know if that cleaned up, because I just turned some down here. All right, so nonetheless, what we do is we go through and we try to create that social experience. I will tell you it is the hardest thing to do, but it does help, because it allows people to come and talk to those who are on the Zoom and vice versa. So any audio from the Zoom side of the call actually gets pumped into overhead speakers, and we'll talk about how we do that. But certainly the first thing that we want to talk about is microphone quality. Now, typically what we would do is we will also, and I'm going to switch microphones one more time. Normally what we do is we'll set up the president to sit here and go ahead and address the group, and also any speakers that come in. We can just change seats. That way we're not worried about handing off microphones, potential transfer of illnesses and such. And also in certain circumstances, if you have a lot of changing bodies, what I've done is I've taken a microphone like this, I put it on a microphone stand right over my shoulder here, and then I can use the wireless microphone. They can speak on this microphone, and ultimately, with my setup, it does require having someone drive the tech side of the meeting. So somebody who understands what a soundboard does and how it works, somebody who understands Zoom pretty well, who can move the Zoom window around, and depending on how your room is set up, you can put it up on a television or up on a projector, and we'll talk a little bit about that when we get into it. But the value of quality audio coming into the Zoom meeting cannot be skipped over. It is paramount in my mind. There is no perfect solution. As we've seen tonight, there's been a couple of chat messages that there's been some feedback and some background noise. And you know, sometimes it's just the best we can do. Depending on your environment may not be this noisy, but the ambient room noise does get picked up a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about the video quality. So we talk about inputs into the system. So for a Zoom call to work, you have to have a video. Well, you don't have to have a video input, but if we want to include people from the outside and have them feel like they're sitting here, obviously a quality video experience is going to be very important. Now, the bad news, if we roll back the clock about a year ago when everybody was in full lockdown, is that webcams were hard to come by. Webcams that normally sell for $50 or $60 were selling for $250. Luckily, that has fixed itself a fair bit, and I will have a hardware sheet that I can send out to everybody who's registered for the call. I'll send that out, just a couple of suggestions. There are 1,000 different webcams out there, and any of them can work well for you. But the one thing to look for that I encourage everyone is to look for one that has a tripod mount or a 1/4-inch thread mount on the bottom of the camera. That allows you to mount it on a tripod, much like we've done here, so that way we can actually move the camera around, we can turn it, we can highlight other people. And one of the things that we've done with some of the boundary microphones in the room is that we've been able to turn the camera just to face different people and then turn up their microphone when they're speaking. So a camera is also important, and ultimately, if you haven't explored with Zoom, in the bottom left-hand corner of your window, you'll find the little video camera icon and the microphone icon. Press the little up caret or the little triangle pointing up on each side of those icons, and that'll show you what's available on your current computer to select for the video source and the audio source. So for those inputs, I'll take you through a tour of our setup. One of the things I'd like everybody to grab a quick pencil or a pen, take a quick note, because District Governor Kathy Gibson pointed me to a resource that's a great resource that uses different hardware. They use multiple laptops. And if you go out to the Global Impact Group, which is TGIG, so phonetically that's Tango Golf India Golf.com, they have a great little write-up about how to run hybrid meetings. Great resource. It's a totally different approach from what I do, which is great because I want to empower each and every club to do what they want to do to support their membership. Case in point, I recently sent our membership a survey as to how often they're going to use Zoom, because we're trying to assess. This, of course, takes some time, and for a new club starting up, it can have some costs. You really want to understand what's important to the club members and what's the priority.
Excuse me, Jason.
So check out tgig.com. They actually have a downloadable PDF that you can take a look at that walks through their implementation. So let's dive right into our implementation. Pardon me just a second while I swap some microphones, and I'll get the video camera moved around.
Jason, can you hear me? Jason? Hello?
All right, so everybody speak with me now, and I'll show you where all these microphone cords lead to. Will be a little bit different in this particular Zoom call because I don't have anybody manning. I thought I'd give Henry the night off. Rather than the chat, if anybody wants to unmute themselves and ask questions along the way, we can do that. But there's an opportunity at the end of this that we can sit and talk about your specific implementation, and that there's no meeting behind this. So if I need to stay later than 6 o'clock to answer your questions, I'm happy to do so. I will walk through, I'll try and monitor chat as best as possible, but let's talk a little bit about this microphone right here.
Jason, you have a lot of questions already.
That connects by cable.
Jason, hello?
Jason.
Over to this soundboard right here.
Jason.
All right.
Jason.
So this soundboard is where all the audio comes in. All right, if background is terrible, sorry about that. Let me do this. I will switch. Let me switch inputs for you guys.
Hear us? Jason, can you hear us? Hello, Jason.
Karma, he may not be able to hear us because he doesn't have his earphones in.
That's probably it.
Who knows how to write a note backwards and show it to them?
Well, there we go. I think I've got a mirror image. This is kind of like how you're not supposed to do it. Bottom line.
Okay.
Oh my.
Is this better?
I agree.
Yeah. Now I can't hear him at all now. Can you guys?
No, but I
The
texted,
background noise is gone.
That's true. I think we
and so is he. I put that into chat that we're trying to talk to him, and
His video goes between frozen and black for me.
yeah, he's not on the video.
On those, we had a meeting where if the video goes, unless you can hit like a reset, then you just have to close out and try dialing in again is what worked once, but I don't know if that's.
Yeah, but this is different. He just had his sort of picture up there. I think it was on him. I don't think it was us.
There we go.
Kamar, you can't see your sign because of your virtual background.
Yeah, those darn things.
Okay.
I'm trying really hard. Okay, so is that mirror image or?
No, that's I mean,
see it.
Now we
read
can
it.
see it.
All
So-
right.
I can,
I can hear you guys now.
well, you are very faint.
All right. I'm very faint. Then I will change this. My apologies, guys.
So Jason, the primary question in the chat is, does all of that background noise not turn off your Zoom audience? Because it's like unbearably miserable to listen to all that. If I was the person on Zoom calling in, I'd Zoom right back out.
Yeah,
I
we would
think-
hang up.
So a big piece of it is also your environment. So if your environment, and can you hear me back okay?
Yes, and you don't have your background noise now. It's much better.
Yes. So there we go. One of the settings didn't actually stick, and that's one of the problems. So what you guys were hearing was, I believe, the web camera, the webcam just sitting on the tripod. So that does pick up all the background noise. And so therefore, hopefully a dedicated microphone is a little more helpful. And I apologize, guys. This is a bit of a challenge with the hardware. So obviously it does take someone to run the technology. Someone needs to understand the Zoom call. Someone needs to understand the soundboard and things. And it gets hard when I'm trying to do all the jobs all at once. But if this is better, if we're feeling good, yes, thumbs up. All right, maybe.
Yes.
Okay, great.
I
Then let me
Jason,
talk.
I think it's
Go
safe
ahead.
to say that it's safe to say that we missed most of the first 15 minutes because of the background noise.
Okay, then let me cover that. Let me go ahead and talk through that. So you guys are hearing me on this microphone right now, and if I switch to this microphone, it should still be able to hear me and a quality experience, but obviously I don't have to wear something on my head for this kind of a microphone. So this is typically where we would have the president sit. If we had a guest speaker who wanted to sit, they could sit here. And that way we don't have to worry about transfer of germs and any sort of infectious diseases that we're all trying to find new and creative ways to deal with. It's also possible to put a microphone like this on a microphone stand and have people stand up. So whether you have a podium or something like that in your room where you run your meetings, there's a distinct possibility that you could find a solution there. But the audio quality, as everybody, and I apologize, everybody has unfortunately experienced to the negative sense, there's an opportunity for you guys to appreciate what a good audio experience could be. And video has a little more flexibility to it. So webcams are a great resource. And what you really want to do is you want to make sure that the webcam that you buy for this has a threaded hole at the bottom to put it on a tripod. That allows you to mount it on the tripod, move it around a little bit. You're still tethered to the laptop that is driving the meeting, but at least you have about 6 feet of leeway. So if everybody's okay with it, what I'll do is I'll grab the camera. We'll talk about the hardware setup, and don't worry too much about taking some notes. I do have a graphic that represents some of this that I'll send out along with the shopping list. I put together some suggested cameras and microphones that you could take a look at. There's obviously hundreds and hundreds of options, but to give you guys a starting point, gives you some perspective. So let me turn this microphone off so you don't have to listen to the rest of the background noise, and I'll be right back. Okay, so if we look at the microphone is connected by a microphone cable that comes over to a soundboard. Now this soundboard is a little unique in that it has a USB output. That USB output is what's taking the microphone inputs and sending it into Zoom. So there's some specific things to look for. You're not looking for your standard USB port that you would plug in a thumb drive to play some MP3 files. What you're looking for is a USB-A port, which is the square one, kind of like that was on your USB printers back when you were connecting printers via USB, because that kind of interface does a couple of things. What it does is it takes all of the microphone input, puts it into the USB channel. The USB then has a stereo channel, a left and a right, that comes over to your laptop. And then what you get to do is you can pick which audio input in Zoom. And what you do is you select the USB codec that is your soundboard as the microphone source. So as you can see here, I have 3 different connections. This is the microphone that the president was talking on. This is my wireless headset that I'm talking on. And this is the room microphone or the boundary microphone that Glenn is sitting near. So this gives us an opportunity to customize our microphone array to fit the space if you want. Now, you don't have to get this complicated, right? We could do something as simple as a webcam on a tripod. And you guys, if you have a quiet room with quiet background noise, that's plenty enough to deal with. So as we come out of the USB from the soundboard, that plugs into my laptop right here. And then we have the laptop that drives the meeting. But we can't huddle our entire congregation around the laptop, which is why we actually put the video out to this television. So you could do this with a projector in your meeting room. You could do it with a TV on the wall. You could even do it with a large monitor if you wanted to. And that would give you an opportunity to share what's going on the Zoom call. Now, what I'll do is I'm going to change the setting here so you guys can see what the Zoom participants would see and also what the in-house participants would see if we went to speaker view. There we go. So here would be speaker view. If you guys were here sitting in person, you would see whatever was being presented on the screen. And there would be an opportunity for you to sort of interact with whoever's in the room. But this allows you to really have an opportunity to go through and have people in the room. They can have their own seating. You can meet whatever social distancing requirements are required, whatever people are comfortable with, up to including, we've got Glenn over here. Say hi, Glenn. There he is. And there's a chance for you to really bring the Zoom folks into the meeting. And that's really, I mean, ultimately, this is the goal as we set it out to be. My goal was really to have an experience where Zoom attendees could feel like they're part of the room, maybe not necessarily hear everything that's going on in the room, but that they could be part of it, be present for a presentation, ask questions, and we could hear things from the Zoom call. So that's the next question that people have. All right, so we have our microphones coming into the soundboard going into Zoom. We have the video from the webcam coming in as the video source for the Zoom call. The big piece is, how do we hear what's going on in the Zoom call? And ultimately, what ends up happening is that our setup here in this room is that the television, the audio from the television is actually routed into overhead speakers. So we hear it overhead. So when you guys talk to us, it's sort of a voice from above, which is a fun thing occasionally. But ultimately, you could, in certain soundboards, take the audio back out of this and include the Zoom audio and put it out through powered speakers in the room. So for those of you who have a PA system that you're currently using for meetings, there are ways that you could adapt it to make sure that you can make sure that the Zoom folks are heard in the room. So basically, the setup that I went through is something that if possible, if you could find someone who understands a little bit about audio engineering, check with your membership to find out if anybody has played in a band before, if anybody has run music production, anybody's been in a theater production where they've used microphones. A lot of this stuff will come a little naturally to them, and they will have some information to be able to help you guys out. As I mentioned, there is a document that I just want to show you so you guys know what you're going to be looking at. So this is one of the things that I put together, and there we go. This is a rough drawing to explain to you what I have done here. So I have a couple boundary mics or a couple of ambient room mics, and those ambient room mics are spread out around the room. We have basically the president or a speaker at a master mic, and this presenter mic, I recommend investing in a pretty quality one. That doesn't mean it's a lot of money, right? The one that I'm using is about $99. So at the end of the day, it's not a huge amount of money, but it's also not the $12 Radio Shack microphone that you could go pick up super cheap. And then the webcam is the setup here on the tripod. That webcam is connecting back to the laptop with this USB cable. Okay. The microphones come into the soundboard. This USB cable comes in. So this is our audio source and our audio source here and our video source for the Zoom call. Then I'm connecting through an HDMI cable out to the television. And what I take is I take the Zoom meeting window and I put it up on the television so we can see what's going on with all the Zoom folks. And also, that's how we can present much like this, right? You can have a guest speaker here, have that PowerPoint presentation be the shared content over the Zoom call, and there's an opportunity to include the folks on Zoom through that presentation. Then I put these speakers over here just to represent that this could be audio out of the television, right? If you guys have a smaller room where the audio level on the television is sufficient enough for everybody here in the room, then there's an opportunity for you to go ahead and just use the speakers that are on the TV. If it takes more than that, then you can go ahead and put it through some powered speakers up here, whether those come back out of the soundboard or if it's amplified audio out of the television audio. So like I said, I'll send this out along with the brief shopping list that I put together of a few things that you guys can use to get you started. So that being said, what I'd like to do, if you guys are good with it, I just want to open it up and talk to folks about what you're trying to accomplish. I imagine there are some questions that you may have. And there you go. So let me do this. Let me get out of this mode, speaker mode. And you guys are welcome to unmute yourselves. And let's just talk about what your current scenario is. If you guys have questions, as they say, there's no stupid questions. There's only stupid answerers. I'm happy to give you guys whatever information that I can to help talk through your scenario. I have consulted with a couple of clubs already, talked with them about what they're trying to accomplish, what their specific setup is, and I'm happy to do that with anybody on this call. I will make sure that my contact information is in the document that I send out, so you guys can reach out and email me. And if anybody would like to attend a in-person side of a hybrid meeting, certainly happy to host any of you guys here at Duke's and have you come join one of our meetings. So let's see, Alan, any questions?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the presentation. I have a lot of questions. I'll limit it to two in the interest. One is, have you tried using a roaming iPhone that's hooked up to Zoom? So, you know, as a roaming video microphone, so you could pick up a just-in-time interface from one of the participants in the hall.
You certainly could. A couple of pieces that I would caution for you is that, as you've probably experienced in our rapid training in Zoom that we've gone through over the last 15 months, is that video of people walking around is not the most interesting video for people to monitor and watch. So I'd encourage you to think about maybe naming those iPhones as microphone 1 and not turning on the video. But that's a great idea, great way to think about it. There's lots of ways to skin the proverbial cat, and it's not always necessarily throwing more hardware at it. If we take a look at folks who you could even have a team captain at each table. I don't know how you guys seat your room, but you could certainly have a table 10 captain dial in to the meeting and just be a microphone in that sense.
Oh, okay, thanks. The other question is, have you ever just tried setting up a silent laptop with a wide field of view, just so people could, especially people who are zooming in from outside the physical meeting, can see one window that shows everybody, just kind of a psychological "you are there" feeling?
You know, we thought about that, and really we decided that for the most part, if we look at the majority of the time that we spend in meetings, it is usually listening to whoever is currently speaking, whether that be a club, a board member, a club president, or a presenter, that we felt like getting with a higher quality camera by doing a tripod mounted webcam provided for a better experience, because it is a little more focused. You're right. It's a little bit narrower range of field.
Thank you. That's it.
Yeah, no problem. So let's
Jason,
see.
what's your club's ratio of people who actually attend to those that Zoom in? And I know nothing about your total number of club members.
Sure, no problem. When we first started, it was right when King County started to open back up again. And back in the day, I mean, it was mostly Zoom. There was usually only 3 or 4 of us who were here. And our presenters were coming in on Zoom. But we wanted to try to meet our membership wherever they wanted to be met, whether that be online or in person. Now we've largely flipped to the other side of the coin, where the majority of us are in person. We're a very small club. We've only been around a couple of years in our current form. So we've got 15 in the membership, and I would say on average, maybe 10 being active at any given time. So we're seeing 8 to 9 people in person, and we're seeing 1 to 2 people on Zoom. So depending on the makeup of your club, depending on the comfort of your club members, and depending on what county you're in, those pieces, it's really going to be highly dependent about whether or not it's worth it for you. As a quick tidbit, I did see one question about total cost of equipment. I would say that depending on how frugal and how knowledgeable folks are, you could probably get all the way down to about $300 to $400. I picked up the soundboard used off of eBay because I knew what I was looking for, the boundary microphones as well. And I did see the other question. I do not know of any wireless boundary microphones, but I found a wired solution that fit for us, and I just skipped right there. So there may be something out there, but with wireless, costs go up. This particular wireless headset runs about $60. The quality voiceover recording mic runs $99. There are some cheaper options out there. There's lots of ways to fit into budgets. But fundamentally, I hope that answers your question, Nancy, about it's really up to your club about what's the most important thing for your club members, and how do you want to accomplish meeting them where they're at. And I would suggest a poll or a survey. Feel free to give them an email and say, hey, we need to commit. We're either going to spend club funds on this or not, and help us out. Let's see. Is it Mary Ellen? Mary Aline?
It's Mary Elaine, but I think Kathleen had her hand raised before I did.
Oh, okay. Hi, Kathleen.
Hi. I'm wondering, that background noise that wasn't tolerable came in when you put on the web camera. And now I think you might still have the web camera on, but you're perfect. We can hear you. There's no background noise. You're very clear, and your picture's actually working, which wasn't before. So I'm wondering what you did if you're still using that webcam, because you're saying we should still use the webcam, but how'd you get rid of the background noise and make this thing work?
So Kathleen, the background noise that you are hearing is that's the microphone from the webcam, and I had turned that on, and
Okay.
my soundboard was having a bit of an issue. So when I finally caught up with you guys that you guys were having a poor experience, I quickly just reset the soundboard. And now what you're hearing is this microphone right here, which is a wireless microphone that goes back to the soundboard. And that's why the audio is a lot clearer. So it really stresses the importance of a reasonable quality microphone, which doesn't necessarily mean expensive, but it's a dedicated microphone. And that's why I particularly went down the route of using a soundboard that has a USB out, because I knew that the microphone experience is going to be much, much better.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And Mary Elaine?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. What day and time are your meetings?
So we're a flex club, meaning that we have embraced some of the flexibility from Rotary, and we only meet for our business meetings once a month, and we are the second Wednesday of each month. Social time starts at 4 p.m. Our business meeting starts at 4:30, and we run about an hour.
Okay, because I would like very much to visit next, I guess, well, no, that'd be the second Wednesday of June,
Yeah.
if that's okay. I am something of a Luddite, and I'm leading the transition team to hybrid meetings for Edmonds Rotary. I mean,
Okay.
I would bring somebody with more tech savvy with me.
Okay. Why don't we do this? As I mentioned, I have a shopping list that I'll put my contact info on.
Okay.
For anybody who wants to attend a meeting, why don't we either, I may plan a special one-off of just having a meeting, which is
Okay.
just a hybrid meeting for you guys to come and experience either in person or online. And because I know once a month is sort of far apart for people as well, because we've got some special considerations coming up at this next meeting, and we may be dealing with a capacity issue for the room. It sort of depends on what do the COVID restrictions look like by the time we get to June 9th. So just shoot me an email if you would, and we can go from there. Anybody who wants to have my email, I'll go ahead and throw it in the chat here real quick. Yes,
Okay,
I
and then
will. Go ahead.
my other question was, and maybe you kind of alluded to it, do you have a minimum number of people that Duke requires for you to use their space?
We are truly blessed where we are. This particular Dukes, we have established a fantastic working relationship with the general manager and the management of Dukes, and they have graciously provided us their back room, which probably has a capacity around 22, 24 people, and they provide it to us free of charge. We very early on, as some changes in downtown Bellevue happened, and this was pre-COVID, our previous meeting space actually closed down. So we were searching for a home, and we came to Dukes and said, hey, look, this is what Rotary is about. Can you help? And they said, yes, we'd love to. And so they provide us the back room free of charge. And we have an agreement with them that they actually run separate tabs for everybody, so everybody can hydrate appropriately on their own tabs. And it does keep our costs down. So we don't actually meet around a meal. We have embraced the Flex Club concept in that we have reduced meetings, and we're trying to control costs and keep dues very low. But that's just what fits for our club. If you have a Dukes near you, I'd be happy to reach out to my general manager to find out the general manager of a Dukes near you if you want to talk to them about how to use the space.
Yeah, we have a space right now that has, room for 20 to 30. They're just looking for a minimum of 20 people. So we'll see how that works out.
Got it. Yeah. And it's an incredibly hard time as we see the impact that the pandemic has had on the restaurant industry, and the struggles that they've had is certainly a challenge for everybody. So it's something that we're going to have to learn this new world together as to how businesses engage moving forward.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for attending today. Let's see who else has questions. I know somebody's got to have burning questions. Yes, Colleen.
Yes, Jason, I really want to encourage people to get together personally. And I hope over time, with everybody getting vaccinated, That'll happen sooner rather than later.
Mhm.
But I still want to have the capability to have Zoom because it opens the world of speakers to us. Now, if it turns into a situation, which is what, ideally it will, is that everybody who wants to come will choose to come personally. And so we just have a speaker coming through on Zoom. Will we need all this equipment that you're talking about?
No, as a matter of fact, the simplest thing to do then is you could do away with the webcam. You could do away with the microphones in the room, right? We think about what do we need to capture? And I would argue in a very typical scenario for a guest speaker, you have someone who currently has control of the mic, whether that's your president or your MC or your sergeant at arms, and they would turn the call over to, or turn the meeting to, the presenter, where you could spin up a Zoom meeting, throw it up on the TV, and as long as you have sufficient audio coming out of the television for the rest of your group to hear, then whoever the speaker is, you could actually have the Zoom meeting call the person's phone. So for example, I got Glenn over here. I could have Glenn introduce the speaker. I could set up my Zoom call to go to his phone. And so he could dial in and say, hey, on today's call, we've got Steve. He's going to talk about the cool things that Rotary in Nicaragua is doing. Steve, take it away. Now, all the audio is going to come through the television because that's where we're putting, or a projector if you have it, because that's where the Zoom call is going to live. But there's no necessarily not a real need for the presenter to see any video of inside the room, right? Where we're gonna run into some hiccups or maybe a lesser experience for the presenter is that if we don't have a webcam to see the room, obviously they're not going to hear applause. And if you want to have any Q&A for the speaker, that's when you might want to have some of this stuff set up. And there's a couple of ways that we could set something up like that. For example, you could even go with a USB quality microphone that maybe sits in the room. And so if somebody has a question, they would walk up, they could be on webcam, ask the question, and somebody driving the Zoom call can pick the active microphone. But that's something I'd be happy to sort of troubleshoot with you and talk about possible solutions.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Anybody else? Kathleen, did you have another question or is your hand just still up?
I am on the phone and I can't really figure out how to get my can down. Sorry.
Okay, no problem at all. No problem. Hi, Bev. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Sorry for the tech troubles. You know, it happens to the best of us in the worst of times or something like that. So glad to have everybody stick with it and stay here.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I had the pleasure of attending one of your early hybrid meetings. I was online. I mean, I was on Zoom. I was so impressed because it was very professional. I did not feel separated from the physical meeting. You guys did a great job of including those that were on Zoom and interacting with the ones who were there too. We got to play the game. It was just so much fun. So I just think you're awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Bev. And those sentiments mean so much. I can't tell you how many times it's taken of hiccups and challenges and struggles and refinement all along the way. This is not something that happened overnight. I have a little bit of background in a little bit of audio engineering, some theater days back in my high school and college days that let me understand what I was trying to do. But working all of this out and ironing it out is not an easy process. So if your club is seriously considering this, I would strongly urge you to go to your membership and ask, hey, who's ever played in a band? Who has run sound for a theater production? Anybody with some audio experience can certainly help you around the realm of microphones, what we want to do, what we're trying to accomplish. And it is a multi-person deal, right? I'm president-elect right now, but I have spent the last year sitting right here behind all of this with one earbud in my ear and a microphone, trying to run all the sound for these meetings. And it's something that requires full-time attention and someone who's really plugged into what's going to happen during the meeting, understanding when the presenter's coming up. What is the presenter presenting? Do they have the PowerPoint? Like, this is something that we have to plan ahead for. It is not great to make a day of decision or make a bunch of changes in that regard. So I'd encourage you guys to get into the planning phase now. Larry, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. Thank you, Jason. Hey, our club currently uses a projector and a screen for, presentations and things. We're in a location which doesn't have easy access to a television screen. Do you have any thoughts on the relative advantages of using a television? And if so, how big as opposed to a projector and a screen?
Well, tell me, how big is the room and how many people do you have in the meeting?
We typically will have 20, back in the days when he had real meetings, between 20 and 25. The room will hold legally up to 60, although we only have that for parties.
Okay. So a couple of things, benefits of televisions. Obviously, being backlit, it's going to be a lot easier to see in a bright room or a room such as ours. We've got all these big windows that all this lovely filtered light comes through on a nice cloudy day. But I'll tell you what, when you're standing up in front of the group at 5 o'clock on an August evening when that sun is beaming in, it is blinding. So having the television really gives you a little bit more control over the brightness of the image in the room. Plus, having some built-in audio from that is really helpful. That doesn't mean you can't use a projector. You can absolutely use a projector. There's got to be some sort of audio out capabilities that you guys will have to solve. And that could be at the projector level, because if we send audio and video over HDMI signal together, then there's going to be an output on the projector where you could plug in a powered speaker. You could even run down to Costco and they have the Ion Bluetooth powered, just a party speaker. It doesn't have to be a full-blown system. I went the route that I did with this mixing board because of some of the equipment that I already had. But as I said, again, I'd be happy to talk with you guys about where you're at, what you're really trying to accomplish. And what I'm encouraging people to really think about, if we're going to solve this, for how long do we want to solve it? I'll give you a very close and personal story here. I committed to my current president, Tim Leahy. He said, well, Jason, I don't know what to do. What do we do in a pandemic? And I said, I will run a hybrid meeting for every single one of our meetings through your presidency and through mine if I have to. Now we've lived what that means. We've seen the vaccine rollout, and I would say that we're seeing improving numbers and a positive impact. And I, much like some of the other folks have mentioned here, would really like to encourage people to come in person. I can't reiterate enough, there is no replacement for having that in-person interaction, and including with your speakers if you can get it. I understand that having worldwide accessibility to speakers from all over the place is a crazy cool concept, but having that person-to-person, mano-a-mano interaction, it's still so valuable. And I can tell you, as someone who has been coming to all of the meetings, that it's one of the things that I craved the most was getting back to meeting in person once we could do it safely. So what I would say, Larry, is I think there's ways that you can solve with your current scenario, and I wouldn't necessarily say change anything unless you have a need other than that. I mean, if you guys aren't satisfied with your current solution with the projector, well, then absolutely, let's talk about it. And I mean, you could run down, it doesn't have to be a super expensive TV. You could get sort of the bottom of the line, and I would say start around 55, 60 inches. And you could get something from Costco, I would guess in the $600 range, something like that. But it's really about where you meet, where do you mount it? Like it's a bigger question than is a TV going to do the job better?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. All right, I'm when you see me look up, because it's the TV's up there, that's what I'm looking at to see if anybody has a hand up, anybody has questions. Let's see. Anyone else? We had, oh, there's Sherry. Hi, Sherry.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Is that Mount Rainier in the background?
Yes,
Oh, wonderful. What club are you with, Sherry?
I'm with Maple Valley.
Okay, great.
We did a trial run on a hybrid meeting.
Okay.
for one of our board meetings, and it was very, we have a projector at the site. And so we hooked our laptop up and everything. It was really hard to get the audio so that we could hear it really well without background. We have microphones, and we tried it with just the audio on the laptop and then hooking up a phone like an Android or iPhone or whatever, and putting the speaker down to it. And that, it gave us like that feedback, this feeling. So is there any other way to do that besides buying more equipment?
Yes, there's always another way to skin the cat. So you're talking about audio from the Zoom call to play in the room. That's your biggest struggle. So here's what I would say. There are a number of small Bluetooth speakers that you can get that have the headphone jack where you can plug in a cord, and I would plug that in to your laptop. Now, word of caution, laptops, most of them are coming in the tip ring and sleeve. So that's stereo audio and microphone. So make sure you have a compatible cable to make sure you're going to be able to hook it up. But you can take the audio out of your laptop and you can put that to all kinds of powered speaker sources. So if you were going to set this up where, let's say Glenn and I are in person and we got two other people on Zoom, usually either the laptop or a webcam microphone pickup in the room will probably be sufficient. And then what you want to do is you want to power or amplify the audio out of the laptop. And then just make sure you set your Zoom audio settings correctly, that you pick your speaker, because there's a different setting for speaker and microphone in that Zoom control box down off of the microphone there. And make sure you pick the right audio out to make sure that the computer is sending the audio over the right port. Does that make sense? Okay. And Sherry, make sure to grab my email out of the chat box there. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to talk you through it, help you with things. And it looks like Jenny has her hand up. Hi, Jenny.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good.
Thank you for doing this today. And
you're welcome.
I appreciate how the rough beginning and now the smooth end, because it's an actual demonstration of the challenges one faces. So I love the reality show of that.
It is reality.
Yes. So that being said, Jason, let me tell you what our club faces. I marvel at your knowledge. I think it's fantastic. Guess who's able to do that in our club? That would be 0 people. Okay. So do you have any suggestions for a Rotary Club that would like to move forward with this idea in terms of tech support?
Yes. So there are some clubs who've actually embraced some AV production companies. I know the Bellevue Lunch Club actually has an audio technician because they are such a big club, they have a need for powered audio and PA systems at every single meeting. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your club, Jenny, and tell me like how many people are we talking about? Where is your club?
So our high point was about 135. I'm Jenny McCloskey, president-elect of Mercer Island Rotary Club.
Okay.
So we are not able to meet in person in our normal place until March or May of 2022.
Wow. Okay.
So that's the news we've gotten.
Got it.
So do I think it's going to take that long to prepare for it? Yes, I do. So that's why I'm asking you now. So, so it's a big on the large side, probably 100 plus. I would say generally a weekly meeting would show up anywhere from 60 to over 100 at times.
Okay.
So, I guess we'd be in the Bellevue Lunch Club category that would need somebody to do that. And so what kind of AV people did they hire?
It's my understanding, and I'm not a member of it, so I can't speak to
Right.
it, but I believe one of their members runs that company. And so the club actually pays him to provide the person. So there's a couple of ways to sort of chase this down. I would, again, for so many clubs, it's all about the dollars, right? How much is it? Is it worth it? Like, are we going to take our dollars that we're paying into the club and spend it on these types of services? If the answer for you guys is yes, well, there's a number of companies who will do it for you. And I think there's a lot of negotiating power in saying, hey, you know, we're Rotary, we're the world's largest nonprofit, and we do really good things, but we have a need and we don't have someone to support it. I would be happy to talk you through a couple of ideas. We can chase down a couple of companies together, take a look at what they would charge. Certainly having a voice on your side of the phone that says, hey, look, this is what we're looking to do, powered PA setup and USB output. I'd be happy to be on a couple of calls with you guys to talk about what you guys are trying to solve for. Why don't you take my email? And I think the best thing we can do is probably talk offline and figure out what makes sense. My email's in the chat box there. And I'd be happy to talk with you further. There's a number of folks on the call that I've already spoken with. And each club is a separate sort of scenario. And I want to honor that for you guys, but also get through some questions tonight. So I just posted my email one more time. It's imjustjay@gmail.com. And feel free to shoot me a note and we'll try and figure things out. Sounds like you guys have a little bit of time to figure things out, but I agree that the sooner you start, the sooner you can figure it out.
Yeah, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Jason, this is Mike Chapman. I'm with the Duval Club.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
We have 20 Good. We have 20 members in our club. We have some fairly sophisticated, capable, so, you know, we could implement this at many, but it strikes me that most clubs already have ability to project a speaker's PowerPoint on a screen or on a big screen television. We
Correct.
happen to have a projector and a laptop that we use for that purpose. So it seems to me that the quickest and least expensive route for most clubs to this kind of a hybrid, using that existing equipment they already have, and maybe invest in an external microphone and an external speaker that plays well with their laptop.
Yeah, you're precisely correct. Every club can, if you can put a PowerPoint up today or play a video for your audience to watch and hear, you're 90% of the way there. I would say the only thing that is going to be a little bit of a reach or a little bit of a stretch for folks is figuring out what is your microphone strategy and what are you really trying to solve for in that sense, and how do you implement that? So thanks for sharing that, Mike. It's a great point, and I'm really glad you brought it up, because it does bring us back to the simplest solution can be something as basic as a laptop, not even a webcam, but a laptop with a powered speaker that you can take audio out and put it in there. Let's see who's next. I don't know who had their hand up first, but I'll go with William McCully. How are you, sir?
Doing well, thank you. Who are you training to take over when you decide that you don't want to be committed to that job anymore?
Well, he doesn't know yet, but he's sitting right here. So Glenn, our current Sergeant at Arms, he's actually volunteered to take on some of it. And I also have my president-elect coming behind me, Mr. Brett Magnan, who has a little history in the hospitality industry. He actually ran our last meeting, and moving forward as incoming president, I will be behind the black microphone a fair bit. So we've found a couple of people. To be honest and completely open kimono, we ran into this where I said, guys, if I get sick and I can't come to the meeting, like, who's going to run it? Who's going to do it? So that is a consideration, a little continuity of service or a failover plan if your primary person is going to get sick, and how long do they want to do it? Because as you can imagine, it's a very different experience between me sitting here running all the technology versus me sitting there sipping on happy drinks. Yeah.
I think it's probably quite a bit different with you only meeting once a month. That's a different level of commitment.
It is
what most of the clubs are experiencing, which is somewhere between 2 and 4 meetings a month.
Correct, it is. And also the impetus for the survey that I sent out to the club saying, how often are you going to attend by Zoom and how important is it for you? Because it takes me about 45 minutes to set it up and about 45 minutes to break it down. That's another hour and a half out of my time that, you know, I believe goes to a good cause. It's why I do it. It's why I'm passionate about it. But at the same time, if we have a visiting Rotarian and one of our own members attend on Zoom, is it worth it? And that's something every club has to solve for themselves and decide for themselves.
Thank you.
Excellent. And it looks like Mary Aline has another question. She raised her hand again. You're still muted, Mary Aline. Nope.
I don't see your email in the chat, and it looks like other people are not
Okay.
seeing it either.
Yep.
I did find you on Facebook, and it looks like you know Brian Trendler.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, he's
All
a
right.
Toastmaster, and I am too.
Nice. I actually went through a little bit of the Toastmaster stuff myself.
Okay.
Here we go. Why don't you take a look at chat and let me know.
Okay, it's there now.
All
Super,
right.
thank you.
There we go. Sorry, guys. And yes, I am all over DACDB. Being one of the tech guys, I got voluntold to get good at DACDB. So, all right. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Well, this is mostly another observation. I personally think in our club, we encourage people to start coming back to meeting in person. And so I have mixed feelings about how easy do we make it for them to stay at home in their jammies at 7:15 a.m. on a Wednesday versus coming to the meeting. You know, so I think there are a lot of people whose natural tendency home. And if it's easy to do that and they can still be their part of their Rotary Club, they'll never come back to a live meeting or rarely. So that's just a personal observation.
No, and a very astute one, Michael. It's part of the discussion that we're having here with my board of directors currently is we want to empower people and accommodate people, but we also have that same fear because we know the value and the quality of the experience that not only that member, but the other members of the club have when they're meeting in person. And I think you can agree with me. I'm sure we've all attended some sort of an online fundraiser in the last year.
Oh.
And let me tell you, that's about as effective as a wet blanket. Like it's just really hard to get fired up. You don't have the same giving spirit. There's no camaraderie. There's no competition. Like it's just a different experience. And so getting people back to in person is very important to us, particularly with a small club. We're trying to drive more engagement, try to expand our club. And we are convinced that in person is the best vehicle to do that. On the flip side, there are folks who our personal opinions aside, there are people who can't get vaccinated. They're just not going to do it for medical reasons, for whatever reasons. So how do we accommodate those people? We don't want to leave them hanging in the lurch, and dare I say, even removing them or leaving them singled out, so to speak, as not being able to experience it, because we don't run the Zoom meeting. So this is the internal struggle that we're having. It's a bit of a moral dilemma, honestly. But I hear you loud and clear. If you find the proper answer, let me know, because it's one that we're looking for at the moment. My current thinking is that we may actually scale down our Zoom experience, and it may just not be quite so interactive. As Bev attested to, and thank you, Bev. Love the kudos, and so glad to see you on again. We work very hard to include the Zoom folks in the meeting. So we found online games where we were doing trivia games, and we built 2 teams. It was the Dukes team versus the Zoom team. And we went back and forth and really went out of our way to truly engage with the folks on the Zoom call. Now, when you've got 8 people on Zoom and 4 people in person, it's worth doing. When you have 10 people in person and 1 person online, well, it's a very different experience. And so we're actually talking through, do we just go to a webcam experience? Do we go to a webcam and a microphone experience where we don't have the big soundboard? We don't have a whole bunch of fancy mics, but we literally, to your point, Mike, we just run it off of a laptop. And we try to clean up audio and video a little bit, and you know, it's just less of an experience. And even up to and including the point where we've been having discussions with our president of, does he talk to the camera or does he talk to the room? Because that's a very different experience for both the speaker and the attendees. All right.
You know, when it gets down to 1 or 2 people, what we have done is we just ask somebody ahead of time to have their available to be put on speaker or FaceTime. The person who's calling in remote simply joins the meeting that way. You know, because it's not fair for you to put in an hour and a half of work for that one person that wants to stay home. That's just not fair.
No, I hear you loud and clear. It's certainly one of our major concerns. So we should just stay in touch. Let me know. Hi, Lisa.
Hi. Just a quick, we're thinking about going back to all of us getting together, and we're all very excited about it. But we meet in a retirement home. They're excited to have us back, but we have restrictions. You have to be fully vaccinated in order to come into the building. So we're going to have a discussion tomorrow at our board meeting. What do we do with student of the month? And parents that want to come and all of this. We're going to have to figure out how many times are we going to meet per month in real time. Are we going to use Zoom for those meetings so that students and their parents can Zoom in? How are we going to handle it? So yeah, we have very strict restrictions on who can enter the building to come to the meetings. And Sammamish has no great other place for us to go. This is the only facility that we have available to us.
And it's on my list to actually attend because you guys meet right around the corner from my house. So it's been on my laundry list of things to do, is to pop in and say hi to you guys. So
good.
I'd be happy to come and chat with you guys about some of the solutions. I hear your struggle and I hear your concern. It is absolutely one of the challenges that we're going to end up facing in a post-vaccination world, is what sort of restrictions are there. Of course, naturally, I know where you guys meet. It's where all the grandmas and grandpas live, because my daughter actually went to preschool right there at Evergreen Academy. So she'd go trick-or-treating there, and that's how we explained what this big building full of old people was. So it's one of those things for you guys to really think about, what does your content look like? And maybe you guys put Student of the Month on hold for 6 months, right? And maybe Student of the Month changes, the content of the program or the context of the program changes to meet current sort of restrictions and guidelines. So maybe you guys could only have, 12 students 12 and above, or maybe only a high school student, but just let them know that this is a restriction of attending. So you guys have a real challenge for sure. That is definitely definitely a concern, but let's just stay in touch on it. I'd love to hear what you guys come up with for a solution, and if you guys want to talk about technology and how it might empower some things over there, I'd be happy to pop in and chat with you guys about it.
That'd be wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, who else? Let's see. I see Howard's still with me. Howard, I'm proud of you. Oh, Mary Aline, you got your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just the question about who's vaccinated is a really big one, because you can't really check. You can't ask people for proof of vaccination, I don't think. I attended an event last week where the invitation said, please be vaccinated. But after that, it was an honor system. And we haven't completely fleshed out all the rules for my group. But I think please be vaccinated is reasonable. But I think show your proof of vaccination is going to offend a lot of people. So I wonder how other groups are handling that. I mean, I'm vaccinated, and personally, for me, that's enough. I don't honestly care whether other people are or not. But then I'm healthy. Some people, even though they're vaccinated, are still really concerned, and with good reason. So I don't know what.
It's such a hard question, and we're verging on breaking through some personal information boundaries that a lot of people are very they're very sensitive about, and rightfully so. My own personal stance is largely irrelevant, because it doesn't matter what I think.
Well,
right. But as an organization, we do have to be sensitive to it. And I believe that the question of please be vaccinated before attending in person, I believe that is a very gentle way of saying this is our hope. This is our desire. Obviously, we're not going to be, scanning you for the 5G chip in your arm when you come walking in. But if we could just ask the favor and say, hey, look, for the safety of where we meet, and this is one of the things to consider, right? We are generally hosted somewhere other than someone's living room. We're at a place of business, and for consideration for that business, we ask you to be vaccinated before you attend in person. I think it's a very reasonable way to put it, but ultimately, as you know, there's no way to prove it either. I mean, anybody with Photoshop skills and a social media profile can go search their friends. Somebody's posted the picture of their card, and anyway, totally different story. But I hear you.
Well, because for our group, we have to have a minimum of 20 meals purchased, or we have to pay the difference. And we do have members who won't attend if they don't know that everyone's been vaccinated. So we're still noodling on that one.
Yeah. Again, much like I asked Michael, and as I have a wish for all future parents, if you ever come up with a solution and can write a book about it, let me know. I'd love to know. I'd love to know what the right answer is, because we're just in this space of do the best you can. All right. Anybody else? I love this Q&A, guys. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you for bringing the questions, coming up with the ideas. It's something that I'm passionate about, and I'm happy to help clubs whenever I can. I'm busy, you're busy, I get it, but I will carve out the time to talk with you about what you guys are trying to accomplish. So if we don't have any further questions, I'll let everybody sort of kick off for the night. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you for being part of Rotary and participating in the Festival of Training. This is an amazing way to deliver some awesome content that's out there. Don't forget to register for the district conference in October. I look forward to seeing all of you out in Coeur d'Alene, and also the final golf tournament for the Rotary year, I believe June 26th. Hosted up at Newcastle, and would love to see you guys out there golfing and happy houring and dinnering. So thank you again. Good to see everybody. Be safe out there, and careful who you're sharing air with.
Thanks, Jason.
All right. Take care, guys. Have a good one.